Sharing our stories makes us stronger and brings us closer together. So, here's to the strong women. May we know them, the podcast. I'm your host, Megan Lucas. I'm a coach, a published author, and a speaker, but more so I like to create spaces for the messy parts of our stories to be celebrated and supported, because we are stronger together. In this episode, Laura shares her journey of courageous choices and models how things don't have to be bad in order for us to pursue our inner desires.
Welcome to the May We Know Them podcast. I'm your host, Megan Lucas. So excited to have you here today with me and our guest, Laura Michael. I'm excited to share with you a little bit about her. But first, if this is your first time with us, just a couple housekeeping things to help you get the most out of your experience today. I highly recommend having some kind of piece of paper nearby and something to write with. It can be a napkin, a scrap, whatever. But as you're listening along, if there's anything that jumps out at you, please write it down. Whether or not it's something that you're nodding along to that's really validating and you agree with, great. If it's something that challenges you, even better. If it gets you to think a little bit differently outside the box or just be curious, excellent. Write that down. Whatever you take away from this, the big message, the impact might not hit you for a couple of weeks, but keep that piece of paper nearby. Refer to it here and there. See what happens. And then let us know in a comment in the episode afterwards, because we love keeping this conversation going. So thanks for being here today listening. I want to tell you a little bit about our guest today. Laura is somebody who is reliable to do the work. And by that, I mean, if there is something hard to lean into, I know she's doing it. If there is something she says she's going to do, I know she's doing it. She's a person of integrity and is able to do the hard thing, whatever the hard thing is, with a lot of grace. Or at least it comes across that way. Maybe underneath the surface, it doesn't feel like that. But man, I look to her. Like, she's definitely a model. If you're somebody who feels like it's time to go through a season of change, to maybe make some scary decisions, get Laura in your corner and just watch how she does it. Because there's an energy she brings to leaning in to this work that's really inspirational. And I'm sure you're going to get a little piece of that today as we talk about her story. So Laura, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dive into this, to dive into your breakthrough here, especially because for anybody who's had some sort of breakthrough in their life, we know it's not just like a flip of the switch. There's a buildup to it. So, there's a lot of connecting the dots and puzzle pieces that somehow, like, suddenly it happens gradually and then suddenly. So for our conversation today, we're going to be talking about choosing courage. And those words are really intentional because it's not about finding the courage. We have it. It's just tapping into it. And it's really about just leaning in and choosing when it's time. And Laura, what I'd love for you to share before we get to the big breakthrough, I know there were things going on in your life before you really chose courage in the way we're going to talk about today, like the kind of the big aha. So share with us a little bit, take us back, your journey before getting to that point. Like, what was going on in your life where you started to maybe be curious or lean into doing life a little bit different, questioning, maybe little ways you started to choose courage that led to this big way. So I'll let you go ahead and fill us in, catch us up to speed.
So I guess my journey started in a very kind of traditional way. I grew up in a family with pretty traditional expectations, high expectations my parents had of me and I had of myself. And so it was, you graduate from high school, you graduate from college, you get a good job, you work your way up in that job, you get married, you have kids, you kind of follow the traditional path in life. And I was killing it. Like, I was doing a great job following that traditional
Not surprised.
Yeah. I knew what I was supposed to do and I went and I did it.
Uh-huh.
And I never really questioned it right? I just kind of was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to go do a great job at it. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going to keep climbing the corporate ladder. I'm going to, have some kids, 2.5 kids and the dog and the cat and the house. And I think there came a time where I just realized, like, I have it all, but I'm not happy. And so what is that? Like, how do you have it all in that traditional sense and not be happy?
Yeah.
And I was happy enough, right? Like I'm happy with my life and I had a good job and all of that was happy enough, but it wasn't like, it didn't like hit me real in the heart, like, where you're like, I'm just fulfilled and thoroughly grateful for the life that I have. I think I was just on autopilot for so long. And I was working a ton. Like, I'm a person, like you mentioned, I'm a person who loves to work. Like, I love to get in there and get things done and do what I say I'm going to do and fulfill. But I think in corporate America, that lent itself for me to overworking and to being the person who was reliable to be depended on to, if we call you at 10 o'clock at night, she'll get on her computer and she'll do what needs to be done. And have 2 kids and a husband and a life also. So I think it was a choice that I made to continue to do what I thought was expected of me, what I thought was right. And yeah, so I just hit this moment where I was kind of like, all right, I'm going through the motions. I'm doing the things I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not fulfilled. So what do we do with that then? Right. And that's, I think, where I started to question, everything, right? Like, you just get to this point where you're like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Real.
I did what I'm supposed to do and I'm not enjoying it. So, and I think I just, at that point, just really dug in, right? Like, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm just going to really, like, maybe if I lean in, harder. Right. Yeah. It'll fit, it'll feel right. And I think the first moment that changed for me, or that, I got shaken up, was just, week after week of overworking, of being tired, of having, being a little snappier than I would like to with my kids, my husband, my family. Like, I was just exhausted. My husband had sent me a text message with a Washington Post article. So I pulled it open on my phone and I read this Washington Post article. It was an article on burnout and the physical and mental ramifications of burnout. And highly recommend reading this article for anybody who feels a little bit overwhelmed by their job or their life.
We'll link it. We'll link it.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry, everyone. We're about to
I read this article and I said, how did the Washington Post get this information about me in order to write this article? I just, like, where did they get this stuff? And and it was talking about all of the physical detriments that happen to our bodies when we are in a continual state of burnout. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I crumbled reading that article. I just fell into complete emotional despair. I was like, this is about me. This is where I am in life. I am in burnout. And it was so bad. It wasn't just like a little bit of burnout that you get over. It was like years upon years upon years of building up burnout. And that one moment, if we're talking about these just little moments of time in our lives that create a ripple, that one moment of reading that one article that my dear husband sent me caused me to make a brave choice that I had never made before. And I sent an email to work that night. It was a Sunday night. And I sent an email to work and I said, I'm taking a mental health day tomorrow. And this is in 2019. So this is not like post-pandemic, where mental health is like a real focus and everybody's advocating for mental health. I mean, it was starting, but for me to say that I was going to take a mental health day required intense courage. And I did not have any other choice to make. That was the choice. And so I think that was like the first domino. That was the first moment of like, things are going to be different.
Oh, I hear so much. Like, I'm nodding along fiercely over here because I resonate so much with this. I came into the coaching space having been a teacher. I was in education for 8 years, but probably hit my prime of burnout at year 4. And same, doubled down, thought I just need to work harder. At this point, I was like in the process of getting my 2nd degree. So there was some chatter in my head of like, well, I need to see this through. I'm getting a 2nd degree, like all that pressure. And then I taught for another year and then got promoted into an administrative role. And I thought, change of scenery, that's what I need. But if you're burnout, anyone listening, do not take on an administrative role. It's not going to fix your burnout. It's like, pouring gasoline on a fire. And similar, there just came a moment of pure awareness of like, this isn't working. And I can't keep doing this another 30 years. And then once that weight hits you in the gut, okay, now what? So for you, after taking that mental health day, what are some of the dominoes that started to happen for you after that?
I think it was just like a deep awareness of my state, right? And like a need. I needed something that I wasn't giving myself. And then it was all about figuring out what it was, right? Like we had all of the things we were doing, and pieces and parts of them were good. Pieces and parts of them were fulfilling. So now it's all about figuring out what it is that was fulfilling and rewarding and, fueled my passion of the work that I was already familiar with, of the work I was already doing. And so then it became really just an investigative mission.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let me really diagnose and digest what parts of my life I want to have more of. And what I realized is that it was those moments where people on my team would come to me and come into my office and sit down in my office and say, I have a challenge. I don't know what to do. I need to just talk through it. I'd be like, okay, let's do this. I love this, right? Like, I'm all here for it.
Your eyes just sparkled.
I know.
Talking
and, yeah. And half the time, I didn't even really fix anything, right? I was just there for people. It was just, they needed a safe space to come and close the door and talk about what was going on. So I said, all right, how do I do that all the time? How do I make that the mission instead of consulting, which is what I was doing? And in consulting, you're giving all the answers, right? You're the expert, so you know the answers and you're giving them to people who don't have the answers. Well, I didn't really necessarily want to be the expert anymore. I wanted to like be the source of safety and the source of problem solving with people.
Yeah.
Not long after the Washington Post article, I signed up for a coach training program because I realized that coaching space is the place where you can be with people, with what they have in their lives and what they want to achieve, and not do it for them, not be the expert in the room.
Yeah.
Just hold space. And I was right. I mean, it was exactly what I needed, exactly what I wanted. So I think, another little moment of clarity, another moment of choice for me was signing up for this year-long coach training program that was going to be a huge investment of my time and energy. And, the first weekend that I attended that coach training program, I wrote a letter to myself, and it was a letter from the future to me now. Just and the letter, gosh, I have it on my wall right over there because it's so close to my heart because it's just thanking me for making a brave choice and for allowing myself to be scared and choosing it anyway. And I think when I think back on that moment, that was a real page that I turned. That was a real, like, choosing to be uncomfortable, choosing discomfort. And I didn't know it at the moment, but it was discomfort for a full year in that program, right? Like real deep discomfort. And choosing that for me, for myself.
Yeah, doing a letter like that. I mean, this might be a great takeaway for anybody in our audience right now. Think about where you'd like to be a year from now, 6 months from now, even, and write a letter to yourself from that version of you now. In a way, it starts to create that vision. Maybe it's not super clear what you're doing, but your experience of life, what your day, how you feel about waking up every day. If you can start to get clear on that, then you can start to put those pieces together and it can start to guide you forward. There's just some really particular word choice used here that I want to point out. It became an investigative journey, like a curiosity, like, let me figure out, like, what are the parts of my life that I really enjoy, that I want to lean into more. And in nowhere in that did I hear you say, I needed to figure out what was wrong with myself. I hear so much grace in it, where it's just like self-awareness, discovery. Let's be curious, let's be open and see what we can explore. It's such a beautiful example of how we can choose to be brave, to explore, to not know what's next, but to lean in and do it anyway. And it doesn't have to be shame driven. We don't have to, it doesn't have to be from a place of, I need to fix this and I need to fix it now. And I've wasted all these years doing something and I'm not fulfilled. Oh, like, it can just be what's next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So year-long program, choosing discomfort for a year. I would imagine that discomfort transformed, like turned into something for you. What did you discover?
I think when you put yourself in a position where you're going to explore inward, like you choose to explore inward, you have to be aware that there's going to be some discomfort. And then there's also just this like real vulnerability that happens, where I almost felt, and I've described this so many times to so many people, but I almost felt like I just unzipped from the top down, put everything on the table, right? All of the mess on the table, right? I allowed myself to be messy. It was no longer this like very clean, crisp journey map where here's the next step and the next step and the next step. It was like, let's just get real messy and allow it. And that was very uncomfortable because it was very new to me. And then I think really, like, once you allow that exploration and you let yourself kind of see all the cards that you have on the table, right? Like, let me spill it all out and then let's look at it. And then let's put it back together the way we want it put back together, not the way society tells us it should be put back together, or the way our parents tell us it should be put back together, or any other requirements of anyone's, but ours.
Yeah.
And then we just sit back up and we say, oh, now I have clarity around the person that I want to be in this world going forward. So that then you have a starting point. You get to work from there.
Yeah. What's cool about that too is that when you take apart you dump it all out on the table and then you put it back in with intention and you're connected to it, you might be taking the same action that you were before. Like, you might be pursuing the same career. You might be, it doesn't mean your entire life is going to be like flip the table, like, but you're doing it on purpose. And you're doing it from you choosing it versus what you think you should. And it feels different. Yeah. So I know, corporate America is a part of your story, and it's kind of where this transformation was taking place in a way, or at least this is what was part of what was going on in your life. And I know where you are now is you're an entrepreneur. You work for yourself. You're a coach out in the world making change. So I know there are some stepping stones that led us from that to this, all of which being brave was a part of, I'm sure. So walk us through some of those, what you were learning about yourself, the more you leaned into those brave moments and chose to be courageous, and where it got you. Take us on that journey.
Yeah. So I think what happened initially was, as I was building myself back up and putting that intention into who I wanted to be in the world, I found my voice again. And that's not to say I've ever shied away from speaking my mind, but I think I really I found my creativity again, and then I brought my creativity out loud. And so it wasn't like, this is how things normally go, and so I have an opinion about how things normally go. It was like, I have something that's never been done before. I'd like to share that. And I'd like to talk about how we make that happen. And so what I found myself doing, still in my same corporate America role, still with my same great leadership, was I saw a challenge. As you grow up in an organization, usually high performers are noticed by their leadership, and their leadership will say to them, "You're doing a great job at your job," whatever that may be. Maybe their skill set is engineering, it's communications, whatever. You're a great engineer. Now, because you're a great engineer, we're going to give you some people to manage and some projects to manage. And the engineer's like, okay, amazing. I want that promotion. I want that new level of responsibility, because that's what corporate America tells us we should do. And yeah. And but generally, people at that level, at that moment in their careers, are also not given any resources or tools in order to know how to be a people leader or a project manager.
Yeah.
And it's not the same thing. When you grow up and you're becoming an engineer, it's a very different life. It's a very different skill set and tool set and education than being a leader. And or being a project manager, for that matter. And so what I noticed is that there was this really cool place in a person's career where, if they were given the opportunity to be introspective and really intentional about who they want to be as a leader, then you have a more confident leader with the tools and resources that they need to be successful in that new role. You have a more emotionally intelligent leader, because they've taken the time to really think about those things. And you have a person who wants to stay and grow with the organization because they're given what they need to be successful in the role that you've given them. And so I brought this all to my leadership, and I said, look, coaching is the perfect thing for these people at this moment in their career. And my leadership said, all right, let's give it a go. And so I think the choice for me in that moment was to say, I don't need to do things how they've always been done anymore. And that for me was really, really powerful, because it's not the way I was operating before. So for me to say, I have something new I'd like to try in an organization that's very big and very corporate. And for them to be open to it also was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So I started a program, and it evolved over time. It continued and grew. And there came another moment where I said to myself, this feels right. This this is the piece of my heart, of my passion, of my career that I was missing, and it's fulfilled now in this work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a clue for me
Mm-hmm.
to say, okay, so what's the next scary thing? And the next scary thing was saying, I don't want to be a consultant anymore in a consulting firm.
Yeah.
How's everybody going to take that?
Yeah.
It was not a thing you heard every day, right? There was no precedent
Mm-hmm.
in my life for it. And still, because I think what happens is when you find your passion and when you're doing it, you're doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
the energy is contagious, right? People want that. They want more of that. And so that's what I received back from my leadership was, yeah, cool. We want more of that too. Like, you want more of it? We want more of it. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was doing what I loved. I didn't even have to leave my job. I just was doing what I loved in the same organization. It was an amazing experience and opportunity that was built on the back of a ton of courageous choices on my part and on my company's part,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, they made some very courageous
I
decisions on
hear the
my behalf.
partnership in that. Like, yeah, on both sides. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so then I was like, I was doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It ends there, right?
that's the end of my story. uh no, I mean, I guess the thing that's interesting is, like, we'll get to this, right? But like, things don't always have to be bad for you to want the next thing.
Yes.
So I ran many cohorts of this program, brought on some other coaches, just like got to support so many amazing people,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of was doing my thing. It was great. And then I hopped on a Zoom call with some coaches years after I started this coaching program. I hopped on a Zoom call with some amazing coaches, and we were going around the room introducing ourselves because we didn't all know each other. And so my introduction generally sounds something like, hey, I'm Laura. I'm a coach. I coach full-time in an organization. I also have my own business on the side. If you know of anybody who's looking for a coach, please feel free to send them my way. I'm be happy to offer them a complimentary session.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working to build my business on the side so that I can go out on my own someday. And I gave my spiel, and then I went on mute and listened to everybody else. And I sat here and I was thinking, you've been saying that same thing for 3 years. Saying the same thing for 3 years. And I was just like, again, one of those moments, just sitting in the chair at my parents' house reading that article, it just hit me. And I realized that it felt like a lack of integrity for me. It felt like a gap in, like, what I said I was doing and what I was doing were not the same.
Sure. Yeah.
And I was not okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really like to do what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah. No, you're totally a person of integrity. 100%. Mm-hmm.
And so I like heard the words come out my mouth, and it came back to me in a very powerful way to create action, to spur action for me. And so I left that call having had a breakthrough, created a breakthrough for myself, just in my own words and hearing them. And I said, things have been good, right? Like, things I've been creating, I've been having so much fun. I've been doing what I want to be doing. And my heart is saying that I want to be doing something really scary, and I'm not doing it because I'm scared.
It's both. It's both. It's, hey, this is going really well and I'm enjoying this. And I've got this little voice or this inkling that's telling me to look over here. And I love, like, thank you for sharing that, because both can coexist. And we can start to be curious about that little voice or that desire, like whatever's pulling us in the other direction, and not tell ourselves we shouldn't just because things are good here. It's such an act in trust, self-trust, and allowing, and just letting yourself be curious and explore. Again, you might not know the how of whatever that is. And yeah, it might be really scary. But allowing yourself to even just look that way and consider, instead of shutting it down. It's good here. So much permission in it.
Yeah. And I think, when we think about leaving a job or leaving a career and pivoting, we're often in a conversation about what we don't like about our job. We don't, we have a leader who we don't align with, or we're doing work we don't love, or whatever the negative impetus might be. And when you get into a conversation about leaving a position in order to level up, right? Not because there's anything wrong, but because you are capable of more. You are capable of something different and new, and you haven't explored it yet, and you want to. It's just a different energy to like a career move or a career choice. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong or right about any of it. It's just a different option, a different choice to make. And I think for me, I realized there was nothing scarier for me than being an entrepreneur. It's been really comfortable to have a paycheck and benefits and pet insurance. I mean, like the whole 9 yards. It's been very comfortable. And there was a part of my life where that comfort and that consistency and that reliability was important because I had young kids, and I really appreciated that. Gave my husband some flexibility to do what he wanted to in his career. It was good. Yeah. And also it was a decision for me to say, that is not the priority anymore. The comfort is not the thing I'm putting first anymore.
That's so badass. And terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I can imagine people who just heard you say that are thinking, if they said that to themselves, and like eyes wide, like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary. And the choice to choose discomfort over comfort or routine or what we've always done. Discomfort comes in many forms. Discomfort could just be something new. Discomfort could be pushing ourselves intentionally into a fear or into something that we've never done before. And I think in any case, when we're choosing into discomfort, it is an opportunity for us to grow ourselves in one way or another.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's got to be something in it for you that would have you choose the discomfort.
Right.
Yeah. Because otherwise, why the hell would you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I can hear like people listening. Please go watch the YouTube version of this, because you'll see just the pure delight and sparkle in Laura's face as she's talking about this. Like this is a radiating, like from the inside out commitment to how you do life. I can see it, just like, yeah, I'm here to do scary things because there's gold there. Like I can see that you're so present to the gold there in doing so.
That's part of, so when I left corporate America and I made that decision, that big choice, and said, this is what I want to do, the thing I named my company was my own breakthrough. It's called Professional Box Breaker. When we are willing to choose to break up with the things that have been the way they have been for as long as we can remember, and see the boxes in our life, right? Just like even see the boxes that we're living inside of, the limits that we've put on ourselves. That is breakthrough territory. And that's where I want to play. I want to play in breakthrough territory.
And so much of like just the like professional box breaker, it requires somebody to recognize that they're in a box first and foremost. Some people, not only do they not want to acknowledge that, but like can't see that. Let's say there's somebody listening who feels like kind of like you did whenever you stumbled across that Washington Post article. What's some advice you would give to somebody who feels like there's something more for me? I'm currently uncomfortable and I'm thinking about leaning into discomfort. Like any advice you would give for somebody who's exploring this journey?
I think the first thing I'll offer is just to listen to your heart and not just your head. I think I listened to my head for so long, right? My head and society and my parents and my just people's expectations of me and what social norms exist in where I live. Just listen to your heart, because your heart will give you the clues. Like even just the body sensations that we have in various moments of our life, our body will tell us how we feel about things if we are willing to listen.
Thinking of a number of breakthrough moments for me where it felt like somebody was sitting on my chest. And I was like, oh, I'm about to make a choice. I can tell. And then it happens again. I'm like, damn it, I'm here. Like I'm about to break something up or like, get really uncomfortable, and knowing like there's something beautiful on the other side of it. But it's that moment where my body's telling me, shit's about to get messy, Meg. Lean in. Yeah. The way we just push through things in general in life and ignore what our bodies are telling us.
Yeah.
A beautiful, like just a clue to just, again, turn inward and trust that we have the answers. We know what we're doing. Or somewhere in there, we'll figure it out or whatnot. But yeah, what a beautiful, beautiful reminder. What's life like now? Now that like you've had some practice making some courageous choices, like any idea what the next, discomfort is you're going to lean into? Like give us a little clue as to what life's like now.
Yeah. So life on the outside of corporate America is wild. It's wild. I'm having so much fun. There are no boxes out here. There's no limit to the life I get to create, the company I get to create, the work I get to do. It's unlimited.
Very, very Mean Girls. Yes, the limit does not exist.
So I think like I'm finding myself having to make some choices about, what is the big blue arrow? What is the direction that will bring me the most joy, support the most people, be like aligned to my passion and my heart and the work I want to be up to. And so I think that's a lot of the choices that are coming now. I think there's also just a lot of choice and courage every day, because this continues to be a very uncomfortable place, right? It's not like
sucks. A lot of the time, you are literally choosing discomfort as a profession.
Yeah. I think it's not just like that one moment of choice to leave the job and go into entrepreneurship. I'm choosing now for every single day to be the best boss I can be to myself, that's kind of blown my mind a little bit, right? Like sometimes we cannot be the nicest boss to ourselves. So every day it's a choice to have to be a really, really good, caring boss to myself. I think also just like it takes a lot of courage to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, just to, make a business where a business didn't exist before. It's creating a new space. They they told me when I started my own business, they say that when you have your own business, you think about it 24/7 and you spend all your time on it. And I used to think about that and think, well, that doesn't sound very fun, right? Like, I don't want to think about work 24/7. What's the work-life balance in that? Well, it's different though, because it's your baby. Your job is that's my third child.
Yes. And like it's an extension of you too. So it's not really something you can often just turn off because we talked about creativity, right? It's actually something you've birthed into existence. Yes. So it's not something you can easily compartmentalize when it is of yourself.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I am thinking about my company constantly, just as I'm thinking about my kids constantly in my sleep, all the time in the back of my mind. But it's a joyful thing. It's a proud, brave thing. It's not a burden at all. And that I think is a lightness that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. What the distinction I think in it is like a lot of people relate to anything that is work as stress. So if it feels like work, it's stressful. But when you're doing something, again, that comes from the inside out, that you're passionate about, it's a different kind of energy. And in a way, it's pouring back into you because you're in alignment. Yes, you're spending energy, but you're receiving too. And you have to be mindful of that energy spent. Also, like burnout can happen too when you are loving everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
But I do think, yeah, there's a shift around what it means to work here that is more fulfilling.
Yeah.
And totally transforms that experience of how you're showing up, like purpose in the world and like fulfill all of it. All of it. Yeah. I can tell you're doing something you're lit up about because you're lit up as you talk about it, which is what a cool measure.
Yeah. Thanks. I feel that way.
Along this journey, this courageous journey, so the podcast is called May We Know Them. It's about like highlighting strong women and their stories, their messy stories, literally the unzipping. Let's lay it all out on the table. Along the way, has there been anybody, either any particular person in your corner that you want to shout out, or like a social media account or a book or something that, again, if people are beginning to seek something here for themselves that maybe we just need to know about?
I was thinking about this earlier because there are books that I love and that are very close to me, and there are podcasts that I listen to. I think everybody has a different personal preference and taste on that kind of thing. I mean, like I love Glennon Doyle's podcast.
My goodness, yes.
Different
things, yes.
Right. She speaks to me because I love doing hard things. What I guess I'll offer is, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, yesterday was Small Business Saturday. So my shout out today goes to all of the women business owners who have chosen this scary, hard, courageous thing for themselves, and they choose it every day over and over and over again. And what I'll offer, if you are one of those badass business owners, kudos to you. You are amazing. And if you are not yet or never will be a business owner, but you know one, go to their website, buy something, go on LinkedIn, celebrate them, go on your social media, like something they posted, support them, because it takes a village to be an entrepreneur, and you are part of their village. And that's the only way we survive, is just really leaning on and being around amazing people, amazing women. And so, just share your energy and your love with a business owner, and, you'll make them a better person for it.
A gift. Thank you for saying that. That's such a gift. Even just to have somebody reshare something of mine,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of us are doing this with it's really messy behind the scenes. Like, I just asked Laura if she can hear my baby just woke up in the background. Like, listen, I'm doing this during nap time. That's how it happens. Like, you don't realize all that goes into it. But to have somebody, either purchase something or even just share or say, hey, I see what you're doing and I'm inspired, is so validating of that person choosing to listen to an inner desire.
Mm.
That's such a huge gift.
Mm-hmm.
To be like, hey, you chose to pursue a path that spoke to you. Bravo. Whew.
Yeah.
Like that'll bring tears to someone's eyes. So yeah, what a beautiful way to validate and support. It does take a village. It absolutely takes a village.
Yeah.
Laura, thank you so much for being here today. Anything you want to say in closing?
I'm so grateful for you having me here and for being able to have this conversation. I think just being able to be celebrating courage and celebrating courageous choices in life is something we need more of everywhere. So I'm just happy to have been here talking about it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for walking us through the journey. Like, I think for any of us who have done the work, or who are, not done as if you arrive somewhere, the work continues, but it's really powerful to kind of acknowledge where you're at and then look at where you started and how far you've come, like to see that ground taken, especially if you're someone who looks towards, okay, what's the next place to lean in? Like, what's the scary thing? Also recognize that like what's next is coming with a hell of a lot of experience from where you've been.
Mm.
So thank you for being a model for that. Like, my hope is that people who are listening to this just realize, like, yeah, I'm pretty awesome. I've done some things. Are there still things that maybe feel a little out of integrity? Places to still lean in, sure.
Mm.
And it doesn't discredit the journey thus far. So thank you for all of your examples today of choosing courage. It is not one choice. It is choosing it again and again and again. I'm excited to see you continue to do that, and just be a fly on the wall in your space to see how that continues to develop for you.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, everyone. Thanks for listening today. Please drop a comment below, something that stood out to you today. Thanks for participating and keeping this conversation going, and stay tuned for another episode.